Hey, good evening. What is today? Wednesday? Happy Wednesday, Facebook. Welcome. What do you have that on?
Oops. Keep going. We're live.
You distracted me. What the heck?
That was an accident.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It.
Oh my gosh, stop.
Let's talk about it.
Stop already.
Gosh.
Just stop.
wasn't
Welcome for everyone. It's okay. Just sit there. For those of you joining the replay, welcome. I'm John Tisha. This is Chris. And tonight we are on Let's Talk About It. And tonight we are talking about parenting, co-parenting, relationships, and all of that in between. Children, how it affects them, how it affects the parents, what happens when you separate, what happens when the family blends, what happens when two parents cannot agree on moving forward, what happens, and all of that in between. So welcome here tonight. Those of you joining us, thank you for spending your Wednesday, almost said Thursday, your Wednesday evening with us. We appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Now, parenting, co-parenting, relationships. So I have here the topic: parenting, co-parenting, child support, relationships, court systems, relationships, children, family units, forgiveness. And because a lot of relationships moving forward need forgiveness, and a lot of relationships that split up and break apart and have children that are involved and have co-parenting things and issues are lacking forgiveness in some areas and refuse to give it. And I think that is, it makes everything so much harder, period. I also just realized and noticed that StreamYard and Facebook keep posting these lives as private, and I have to go in constantly multiple times and make it public. So those of you joining on that were able to catch it, once I finally set it to public where you could see, please share this out so others could join in this conversation, this topic, because I believe that these are things that are not talked about enough, and they're a little bit taboo. Like, you're not supposed to talk about it, or if you talk about it, then you're a certain type of way, or you believe these type of things. And I think that these are important topics to talk about and find people that relate to you on this level, so that, because a lot of times we feel like we're alone in these situations. Right?
Yeah.
So again, all of these things, I think currently the biggest thing. So I seen the other day, a friend of mine shared a post, and let me move down. I'm going to tell you what it said. And it was about child support. And it was from a page on Facebook called Dad Talk Today. And it said child support. Child support is not based upon the needs of the child. Currently is not based upon the needs of the child. Currently is based upon a percentage of the father's paycheck. Providing the child with diapers, food, clothes is not where the problem lies. Sometimes these women cheat, abandon the family, etc. And now the father has to pay money to provide her with a new lifestyle. Providing for your child is one thing. Providing for your ex is another. Sometimes after paying support, these fathers have no money to take care of themselves, but the system doesn't care. This maximizes profit for them, and they exploit it to the fullest extent. Fathers are the customers, and how much we love our kids and want to see them is the product. And the author of that is Eric Carroll. Now, I wrote a little blip, and it started with, you could be mad at me about this if you want, but it's true. And I got some feedback on it, which was all good, because I posted it to create a dialogue and an understanding of where fathers stand. And I'm a stepmom. I'm a bonus mom. And so I haven't personally had to go through family courts like that, but I have been a part of the process. I also have friends who have who have and are going through these type of things as well. And it's really difficult. And I think one of the biggest things that got misunderstood in my post was people either reading just the image or mostly reading what I wrote, and what they took out of it was that I think that it's wrong to get help, or that I think all women, or that it's only men that get screwed over. So let me preface this by saying, in no way, shape, or form do I think that it's only women who screw over fathers. Or that I think that it's only women who, only men are non-present parents. I'm not saying that at all. I know that there are.
It goes both ways.
Right, it goes both ways. There are responsible fathers and mothers, and there are irresponsible fathers and mothers. There are vindictive and manipulative and vengeful fathers and mothers on both sides. I'm not talking about the responsible parents. I'm not talking about the parents or the co-parents who can work things out and figure it out and go on about their business and try and really are there to make the best choices they can for their children. I'm not talking about those people. I'm specifically talking about fathers and mothers who try to take advantage of the system in order to screw over the other parent, period, and how that affects the individual and also the livelihood of those people that they're messing with and the system. I'm talking about those specific things. I'm not talking about anything else beyond that. I do understand that there are situations that are special, so on and so forth. I'm not talking about special need cases. I'm not talking about all that. I'm talking about the general majority of cases that everyone hears about, fathers being screwed over. And if you want me to add the mothers and mothers who get screwed over as well, I'm talking about those situations and how it's not helpful or beneficial, period. Now, moving on to my next point that people kind of want to question me about a little bit was that I don't believe, as a woman, as a mother, as a bonus mother, I don't believe that either parent, either father or mother, should be forced to pay child support through the courts, period. And there are a lot of reasons why. For one, now legislation says in just about all of the states in the United States of America, all say that the judges in the family courts are not supposed to have any type of bias whatsoever towards either parent, father or mother. That it's supposed to be equal, that they both have equal rights, and that they should be considered when discussing and presiding over a hearing for custody or divorce or custodial rights and all that. It's supposed to be equal. The problem is that even though in legislation it says that it's supposed to be fair and that each parent has equal rights and should be considered during these sessions, the problem is that they're not. The problem is that the judges are biased or, for whatever reason, or the case is presented in a specific way to make the other person look in a bad light, even though that's not true, or they're said to have, more income than they really do. Also, the way that the system is set up, it's not really a lot of the ways that they calculate income for child support is not quite accurate either. A lot of the time it's percentage based. Some other times it's based, and every state has different calculations for their income, for their support.
Every county, I mean, depends the state, yeah, but even down to the county, it's different. You go from us to Stanislaus, which is what, 5-10 minutes away?
Yeah.
And it's a whole nother set of rules.
Right. Completely different set of rules. So where we're at in San Joaquin, they are, I would say, more fair, much more fair, a lot fairer.
I've been treated more.
Yeah, I would say San Joaquin.
I've been treated better. I'd say more better.
Recognizes fathers' rights a lot more than Stanislaus, which is 10-15 minutes away from us. So every state has different calculators, and then every county has different calculators. And I'm going to assume that every judge has their own bias and issue on how they hear the cases and how they decide what's what. Now, a lot of these calculations are based on, and this is not just about child support. I mean, it's a big part of it, because we're going to go into relationships. We're going to go into what happens when the relationship splits apart and you have children, and how that affects them and all that. Like, I'm going to go into that, but all of that plays a part into child support and the rights of each parent, or how it should go, and forgiveness and all. It all plays together. But I wanted to make sure that I put this out there so that there's an understanding before we get into this conversation, because a lot of people will misconstrue, especially written word, will misconstrue what I'm saying. So I felt like it was really important for us to sit down and actually talk about this, period. So calculations, some states, some counties will go off of, they're supposed to go off of the income of both parents, and it's a percentage versus what they're supposed to do or what they're trying to do. I know I've seen an article where what they're hoping to do is change this, the parameters, like change the requirements or change the things that they use to figure out these things, because a lot of the time it's based on how much time you have with the kid, what your income is. And sometimes it's off the gross and not the net. Sometimes it's off of how much, what is it? What did I read? How much time that they invest with the kid. But it doesn't take into fact the relationship. It doesn't take into fact like environmental issues, as far as like, things going on between the father and the mother. Why the father is not around a lot. They just know that the mother is saying that the father's not around, not that she's giving him shit, or that the father's giving her shit, and it makes it hard for them to work that out. And so they base some of the child support calculations off of those things, which is unfair. And a lot of the times fathers, and I say fathers because it's a majority of, so I say that because a majority of the time it's a larger percentage of women who pursue the father for child support, financial support, versus a father pursuing a mother for financial support. Also, I think that part of those statistics, I think that it also includes mothers going, applying for welfare. And what happens is when a mother or when a person tries to sign up for welfare, if you're a mother or even a father, I guess, the part of the requirement when you sign up for government assistance is that you have to give the other parent's information to sue them. In other words, to give them permission to go after the other parent for financial information. And the reason they do this is because they'll give the assistance, but the child support kind of fills in like their administration fees or whatever you want to call it. So as long as you provide them that and they're able to go get that or go try to pursue it, it's offered. Most of the time, single parents will not be able to collect welfare and child support at the same time. So these are a lot of little things that most people don't know. Now, I heard earlier, someone was saying like fathers don't have rights. Yes, they do. Men don't have rights. Yes, the fuck they do. Excuse my language. They do. And that's why I said earlier that actually in legislation, it states that men and women both have equal rights as parents, and that the court system is not to be biased based on gender or gender roles or any of those things. They're not supposed to be. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen quite often. So it bothers me so much because fathers, and I say fathers because statistically, I want to say it was statistically like 60% or something of women file for child support versus, I want to say it was like 32% of men. Or maybe it was like 70 something percent. I know it was like a little gap in there between the percent of how many fathers pursue child support versus mothers. That's why I say that. And so fathers do have rights. They have all the same rights that mothers have. The problem is that because women threaten a lot more today than they did before, they threaten financial destruction if they don't get what they want, and they scare men. I mean, up until this point, so many men, I mean, I know there's the father's right movement. I know that it's been into effect for what, at least a decade. But it's still very new, and it's still very unknown, because there's a lot of fathers that don't know that they have rights, that they can pursue, that they can fight back in court, that they can educate themselves and all the things that that will help them, one, get custodial rights from their kids, and also not be screwed over so much to the fact that they can't live because they're being 65. It's legit 40 to 65% of their check is garnished for child support based on what the woman has submitted as income, even though it may or may not be correct. And the only reason, and the only way that they can verify that is if the father submits that information. And so a lot of the times it's wrong. I've also heard of stories where, there are some women who are, and I will say men, because I've heard the stories too, that the parent will be so vengeful that they would lie about the income, but then also add children that don't belong to that father, and still take that father for child support, or the mother for child support, when it doesn't even belong to them, and the court's not even bat an eyelash. Like, the father or mother has to legit go to battle in court and spend all of the resources that they have in order to get good help. Representation. There you go. So Anthony says, where's my mouse? Anthony says, man, no, I got a lot to say on this. I have heard facts on this subject. If you ever want to link up the subject, I'd be obliged for you. Oh, dude, I can send you a link. We can send you a link.
Training right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry. Training. I didn't even go. I got excited. Training now, but definitely going to watch out. Yes, for sure. Yeah, so we'll definitely have to get him on. Also, if anyone who is watching, if you have experience with the courts, if you have experience with the lopsided favoritism on this topic, anything like that, please let me know. I will send you the link so that you can join and have this conversation with us. Like I said, I believe that this topic is really important to anyone who's going through this situation. Now, let me bring this back up. It kicked me off my page. Okay, so now like that's that's where we're gonna end up back there. The different experiences and what you can do, and the different type of rights, and how that affects the family unit, and at the end how it all ties back into forgiveness. And because that's something that we talk about all the time, is positivity, love, encouragement, being strong, being a good person, and forgiving, even though it's hard, especially in situations like this, because really situations like this affect everybody, but they affect the kids the most, especially when when the parents cannot get along. And that's the saddest part. So parenting, I would say there's not a whole lot of difference between parenting and co-parenting.
No, because you got to be on the same page. So for somebody we'll take my experience, right? We're married. We have had to learn to find common ground when it comes to parenting. We might see things a different way, but for the most part, we agree on many of what I would say the standards that we put out for our kids, what our expectations, and they're not something that's ridiculously high. I'll give you an example, like school. My expectations 100%, and I have reasons for it, and we are on the same page when it comes to this. And the reason for that is because 100% and 110% is unrealistic. They're never going to get that. So 100% is achievable. And if they fail to get 100%, well, hey, one, they gave it their all, and two, at least they won't fail. And that's where we agree. We want to set our kids up for success. Now, on the other hand, on in my co-parenting, we call it relationship.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is.
That's what it is. In my co-parenting relationship with my oldest, with his mom, we are on different pages when it comes to a lot of stuff. And then there's some
I'd
things
say
that
like some of the really big things.
Yeah, like we agree on
good.
Like it is exactly like there's a lot of big things like we agree on, and a lot of it, you know, is because the way we were raised, you know, beliefs and whatnot. So there's things that we will just want to fight on. We'll agree on because we have a similar upbringing, whether it be religious or whatnot. And then there's the little things. And we'll use the same example for grades. The expectation at one point was C's. C's are fine. Well, that became a big issue because on one side, and I'm not going to call her the baby mama. It's kind of, I don't know.
So baby mama is almost like derogative, right? And almost like because when it first started coming out, it wasn't like, that's my baby. No, that's
like, it all depends on the context and how you use it.
Yeah.
And I don't like saying it because here's the thing: if I want her to respect me, I'm going to show her the same type of respect, even though. And I think some of you dudes need to hear this because I mean, this ain't going to be a woman's bashing thing all night because I got a lot to say on it too. You know, as far as what I've had to go through. But even some of you dudes, you guys got to hear this, man. You have to show respect. So if you want to be like, oh, my fucking baby mama, oh, that bitch. Well, guess what? You ain't going to show her respect. You can't, you know, expect her to show you respect back. So what I'm getting to is like, here's like my son's mom, right? Her expectations were 70%. And I'm talking, this is a little thing. It shouldn't be something that is blown up into, you know, out of proportion. But that became a major issue, something that we argued about because on her end, she felt like I was being way too tough on him. And on my end, I'm like, well, I think that's the right amount of toughness. I mean, it seems achievable. And so it became this thing. And I took my firm stance and said, no, he is going to get 100%. And there is no more discussion about this. And not because I'm the macho man or because I want to control the relationship. It really comes down to, yes, we co-parent, but that is also my son. And that's your son too. But at some point, you know, if we can't agree, one of us has to make the call, and I'm going to make the call because it is not something that is going overboard. So if she were to take me to court, because that is the threat that we go through, and I know there's women out there you go through it too, but as men, a lot of us go through it. As soon as we get in a disagreement, you know, the kid's mother wants to be like, oh, well, I'm going to take you to court for every fucking thing. Like I've been to court one year like 9 times. It just kept happening. Like I swear it was like every month, every other month. But I've learned to become, you know, try to be as respectful as I can. I put my foot down and say, hey, now look, we got to be on the same page here. We got to learn to co-parent together because it's the same thing. We're parenting and the rules got to be somewhat, you know, similar or almost the same at both houses. Same thing as the expectations. It's 100%. And when I explained to her why, then it was a little bit more understanding. But the thing is we really had to hash it out. Like we had to get into an argument. And I mean, we didn't have to, but that's where it went. And then it was like, hold on, pump the brakes. If we can't talk to each other, then we're going to have to come back. And it took a lot. I mean, for us to just agree on that. I would say it's getting better, but I think, especially when you got kids involved, it's never easy. It is never easy.
Yes. Sorry. So side note, I'm not seeing all the comments come up in front of us so that I can respond to them without having to look down at my phone or a different screen. So if you can please either go to my Facebook business page at John Tisha or my YouTube page at John Tisha. That way I can see them, because for whatever reason, I'm not seeing all of them. If you could do that, I would appreciate it. And thank you everyone who's sharing this. Like I said, the more people who are able to join in the conversation, I think the more beneficial it'll be for people who are going through this right now and feel like they're alone. Because there's a lot of people who feel like they're alone. They were dragged through the coals, and it was just an experience, just a shitty, excuse my language, experience that they went through.
And she's right. So, like my boy Anthony, who posted earlier, me and Anthony, we've talked. I understand, what he's going through. It can be rough. And I could relate to his feeling because I'm in the same situation. It's not as bad as his, and I'm thankful that I have a wife who supports me, which has made me a little better off.
I think that's very important too.
It's hard to be that single dad, and I get that because you're constantly scrambling to either make ends meet or to still keep some type of dignity, but also appease the other side. And I know women go through this too, but it's not easy.
That was the other thing that I read, is that oftentimes even single parents or single fathers, they're working also, and in comparison to the counterpart, the mother who most of the time, usually they either don't work or they go on government assistance. But both at some point living almost near poverty level.
Yeah. And I get it. So all you single dads out there, I understand, especially if you're in a state like ours with California. I get it. You go to your first job and you make your little bit of money. And then you're like, man, I'm going to go get the second job, because if I work a couple more hours or if I could get some overtime, I'm going to be able to be okay. And then that becomes constant. And then you get taken to court and they're like, oh, you went from 60 to 80. Now we're going to hit you in the pocket,
because it's a percentage.
We're going to take that 80 because that's the consistent. And then you lose all the overtime, but they won't go back and lower that down. And then you have to fight for that because they're saying, oh, well,
and you can modify that,
but you have to do that. But to all you guys that feel alone out there, you're not. And I know, like, I was invited to join a father's rights group, and because I had made a comment on one of the posts, and as soon as I got in the group, I kind of started browsing around, and there's one guy in there. He's like, man, sometimes I feel like I'm by myself and nobody understands me. And I sent them the link. And if any of them come to watch this, dude, you're not alone. There are many dads out there that are going through what you're going through. And there's a lot of dads out there that don't have their kids. And there's single fathers out there that do have their kids and that are struggling. And then there's the fortunate ones like myself, where I've been through the BS, I've been through it, and I've actually I have my son, and I've had to fight for it. But I've gotten to a point where I'm not hurting like other people are hurting. But don't let that take away from the fact that I don't know what it is to be there and that I haven't been through it. I just pulled myself together, and I had to try to outplay the system. And I was fortunate enough to be in a little bit better circumstances than some guys, some fathers. But we get it. And if you're feeling like that, and find one of these groups, reach out. I mean, you'll be surprised on how many people you'll meet. And same thing with moms. Hey, you might need somebody to talk to. But you definitely got to go out there and look. You'll find somebody that you relate to. And then I'll tell you, that's the best thing I did. Like I was at work, and there was this dude, Josh. He wound up moving away, man. But that guy right there gave me the best advice ever, because he knew I worked with him. I considered him my friend, and he knew the type of person I was. And he sat me down and said, hey, look, man, I know you can be like this, and that. Get your shit together. Fill out your paperwork. Don't wait for her. Be proactive. Go fill out your paperwork. I know it's scary, but you got to do it. Be a man. Go down there and process the paperwork. You're still going to be on the receiving end. Like you're going to be on the defensive end of it, but conduct yourself Yes, ma'am.
Oh, there we are.
Okay, I think we should.
I don't know what happened. You guys, let us know if you still see us. Give us a thumbs up, or let us know we're still here, because on our end we straight went black for a second. And the feed cut out. Yeah, see, it paused. We got stuck for a second. Give us a thumbs up and let us know we're still good to go. Okay, yeah.
Okay, there we go.
We froze. We're good. All right.
Anyways, so back to what I was saying. You know, I had, so when I had went to court, that was probably the beginning of one changing my life and how I conducted myself in front of people. But it worked. It set me off on a good path. You have to reach out to there. I mean, there's dudes that have been through this, and you can get knowledge. Even maybe they have failed, but maybe that might be your chance to say, okay, well, he failed doing this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try this. It has to be a group effort.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if you were still
no,
going.
I'm done. I think we're good. I was looking back to see if we're rolling again.
Yeah, no, we're good. Okay.
What else did you have?
And Jen, you got, I can't see them on the feed right here, but she's coming in over here. So she said, back in 2002, when I filed for divorce, 2 kids, I didn't even ask for child support. The judge automatically established it, probably to protect my situation for stability and possibly having to in the future resort to apply for welfare. I don't know, but Judge Smack Child Support established it when I wasn't even requesting it in a divorce petition. And yes, they will do that. They will do that because for them, part of, as a matter of fact, part of those fees that they collect actually go to the government. So when you hear sometimes mothers will be like, they didn't even pay me all the money that they were supposed to, or he didn't even pay me all the money he was supposed to, when really in actuality the government didn't give you all the money that was written or that you had projected you were supposed to get, because they kept the money. Not necessarily because dude didn't pay all of it or that they didn't collect all of it. It's just that they were also collecting fees on the other side because they're paying you. That's part of the whole system, just FYI, how that was established. And that's why in the beginning I mentioned that a mother or father cannot file for both welfare and child support at the same time. If they try to, what's going to end up happening is their application for welfare will go through and they will.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I was trying to look for something.
Oh, I don't know what you're looking for. Oh, sorry, I was going the wrong way. There you go. Oh, you changed the color?
No, I was looking for a post because it stopped showing some for a minute,
comments,
and then it came back. I mean, a comment, and then it came back.
No, gotcha. Okay. So yes, they will go after the welfare. They'll take the welfare submission, and through the welfare submission or application, they will require the information of the other parent, the other financial information, as a means to sue the other parent for financial stability if they are trying to go through welfare. You cannot collect both. And child support is basically a back pay to the government when they approve you for welfare. I read that. And that's how that they collect some of that money as well. So if you're not getting all of the money, that also might be why that the government's keeping some of that money from themselves, because they got to make sure they have that for those fees that they have. We have a guest joining us. This is Chelly. She is the host of Let's Glow and Just Us on YouTube. She is a baby mama, as she likes to call herself. I don't call her that, but that's what she likes to call herself. So she has experience.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. I got it on.
Are you going to put it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Guest joining us.
Oh.
Are you going to change the system? You could do it right there.
No, it's because it's on here. I gotta shut this off. Hold on, Shelly.
It's muted.
No.
Not. All right.
No, you don't need to put that on. We're good.
Oh, what?
And
sorry.
there you go. Can you hear us?
Look at the
Yeah,
baby.
I can hear you the whole time.
All right, and we can hear you now.
Okay.
You don't put those on. It's
Why?
right here. Because it's off.
We're not gonna have an echo?
No, we won't. I took
sure?
out the audio from the other end. Yes.
Okay.
I'm getting the hang of this now.
There you go.
We do it like the same amount, but he messes with it way more than I do. So there's some things I still don't even know how to do. But hey, whatever. But anyways, so back to what I was saying, that they will slap that on your yeah, they'll do it. They'll automatically set a mother up, and I say mother because it's a majority of women who file for child support, but they will automatically add that to their claim when they're doing, obviously, because welfare, that's a requirement, and two, when you are like Jen was saying, when she went to go apply for divorce, she was just filling out her divorce papers. They automatically put that on there to collect child support.
So one, I gotta crack a joke to say sometimes it does feel like it's unfair, and I had before I make my little joke, I did put this out the other day on this fathers group, and what I put on the group, because I want these guys to understand that I know what they're going through. So what I said was some of us have to walk on eggshells because the courts are against us, and that's really how we feel. We know that if we go to court, that we have to be like on our P's and Q's, and we have to hope that we get a good judge. And because more often than not, and I get it, there are some women that were done wrong, but not every guy's a bad guy. And when you're put on the defense from the get-go, like myself, like the first 2 times I was in there, like I felt like I really had to defend myself just because I was a dad, because I was a man. And so I understand that, and which leads me to some of my beliefs, which I know we'll get into later, but I there's just certain things I don't believe in, like the government, how involved they can get into our lives. And I don't like it, because instead of letting us hash it out like adults, they take over, and one person gets uplifted, and here's my thing. Most of the times it's the woman that gets uplifted, and the man that gets, the pressure put on him to provide. And then I've heard, like we were talking about earlier, I've heard of stories where it's the opposite way, because the woman's the one making a whole bunch of money, and she gets the one, she gets dragged through the mud like the rest of us fathers, and she gets she's that rare person that experiences that. But I was thinking, man, next time I go to court, because it's 2021, and I could what's it called? Identify. As soon as we hit the courts, I'm identifying as a woman. Start growing out my hair.
Oh my gosh.
And when he's like, and when I get there and the judge is like, sir, I'm like, first of all, don't assume, ma'am.
I can't believe you just said that.
And I want my money.
That's hilarious. Chelly, while we're on this subject, how do you feel about child support? I'm sorry, child support forced through the courts.
So I'm kind of like in the middle. So because I think that there are amazing dads and dads who you don't have to force them to support their children. So I do know there are some really good dads out there, but I was a single mom for a very long time, and I've never wanted to drag anyone through court. I thought that we as adults could be better than that. Like, we could work it out ourselves. Like, first of all, I don't think that a court should tell you could only see your child on Sundays or every other weekend. I don't think that that's a court's place. So for me, I thought that we were better than that, and we would be adults, and I know me, I'm pretty fair. I'm actually more than fair, but so with one of my children, I think her dad and I split up when she was 2, and between the age of 2 and 7, I got $50 once, And this is not a person who didn't work or was on hardship or had a bunch of other kids, because he didn't. Always had new clothes, new car, like the best of everything. And then I was working 2 jobs because I had 2 children prior to that. So I was working my ass off. So I think when she finally got about 7, I said, and this is years of talking to him, like, hey, I don't want you to even give me a check. You don't need to give me a check. Like, but her daycare, like, you pay half, I'll pay half. Her medical bills, I'll pay half, you pay half, whatever the insurance doesn't cover. Like, that she has school fees. If you pay half, I'll pay half. You know what I mean? And we were making the same amount of money. So I was like trying to be like super fair, but I wound up at probably by the age of 7, I was just like, wait a second, like I am literally not spending as much time on the police. So my hours are already crazy. And now I have to work 2 jobs so that I can put a roof over my head and my kid's head. And she was the youngest, so I had to have her in a private daycare, which was more expensive because I didn't have like people to really help me. I had an aunt who helped me, but she had to move to Puerto Rico. But so finally, when she was about 7, I was like, I'm going to take you to child support. Like, either you help me, right? Like, what she eats, what she likes. And I never gave him restrictions, like pick her up whenever you want, which he never really did that either. But so when she was about 7, I finally took him to court. At first I kept telling him, like, hey, like, I need help. Like, I need help. And he wouldn't. So I finally took him to child support.
Yeah.
And they asked about visitation and all that stuff. And I said, I said to him, I said, hey, you can have whatever you want. Like, I don't feel that it's my place to dictate when you get to be a dad. Like, so I've never been the type of person to give rules to other adults. So like, he would call me, he wound up getting married and literally called me like last minute. He called me probably on a Thursday, like, hey, I'm getting married on Saturday. Go buy her a dress, go do this, go do that. And he wasn't nice about it. And I did it. I did it because I wanted her to finally be there around his family and around her dad. And I did it with a smile on my face. I did it.
Yeah.
But so for people like him, my honest opinion, he brought that himself. Like, he brought it, like, literally, like, I'm not petty. I've never been petty with people. I just don't feel like you live a good life when you are petty with people.
Yeah.
So situations like that, I'm just like, you brought yourself to that point. Like, because I've tried, like, God knows I've tried with you and I've tried to work things out with you. But
did he see her a lot?
How does he what?
Did he see her a lot?
Not at all. And now, mind you, he had no restricted days. Like, he could come whenever he wanted. Whenever I even offered to move, not move, to meet him. He moved like far into the suburbs, probably about an hour and a half away. So I even offered to meet him halfway for visitation, because he's like, well, I can't pick her up because you live too far.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you could only give so much. There's some people who they just don't want, unless you can cater to them. And I'm like, that's the reason we broke up. No.
Yeah.
Like, we're not doing that. And now I was in a different relationship, and I think some people bring that on themselves. But I think that people should act like adults. Like, why should we have to have a court who was not there when we made this kid? Like,
yes.
Dictate what we're doing.
Right. Like, I agree.
I mean, I think it's I don't know. It's kind of like a double-edged sword in a sense. Like, it's good for people like me that I was trying my best to do everything I could.
Yeah.
And I had no other way other than either you're going to suck it up and you're going to raise this kid by yourself and you're going to support her by yourself. You know what I mean? So, but then I think for people that are good dads, who get dragged through the mud.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like I have one of my best friends. He has been mother and father to two girls. Two girls. Like even when he was married to their mom, like he's taking them for their shots, their dentist. Mom never did any of that stuff.
Right. And she takes him for child support?
Well, they were married.
Yeah.
He did all this stuff even when they were together. Like he was mother, father, everything. And then they wound up getting a divorce. And he has his daughters, I want to say, and this is not an exaggeration, he has his daughters 95% of the time. 95% of the time. And I'm talking about weekends, taking them to school, picking them up from school, sports, anything. He has his kids 95% of the time. And
after the divorce?
Yeah.
And he still has to pay child support?
Yes.
You see, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. I would have, and also with your ex, I would have cut him off. If he stopped answering me, I would have been like, all right, done.
And I think you bring up a good point. The double-edged sword,
Mm-hmm.
and that's I'm kind of glad you brought it up, because that's kind of where I was going to go earlier. Where because I'm a firm believer. I don't think that the government should be involved in my marriage. I don't think the government should be involved in my relationship, whether it's co-parenting, parenting, how I'm supporting my children. I think because it's a double-edged sword, because when you start giving the government, as soon as you crack the door open and they step in, they never just step in a little bit. They come all the way up in your house, and then they make a mess of things.
Mm-hmm.
And some people benefit and some people don't. Some people, it works for them and it keeps the other person. If this dude's not taking care of his kid, okay, well, maybe this is what he needs to stop being, what do you call it? A lame dad or a piece of shit dad, whatever you want to call him, or
a deadbeat.
I think they call him deadbeat dads.
Deadbeat dad. Like maybe he needs to sort of kick in the ass to get himself, okay, hey, I need to come over here and do this, because if not, I got to pay for it. But I think more often than not, there's inconsistencies across the board. Like state, county, there's so many inconsistencies that it really just depends on where you're at, and you can. To me, it does more harm. And I 100% agree with you, Charlie. It stops letting people be adults and figure it out on their own and make it work. I feel like it takes that away from them, and you let somebody else decide. And that's not how life works.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think they should be involved.
I'm like, wait, I was listening, but I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Austin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it's a whole nother topic.
Side note, no, we haven't heard that, but I'm sure we'll get to it.
So now I
wanted this, when you're done, I want to read this one.
So, but I do want to say this, because we were talking about this yesterday, and I told her, now, when it comes to like spousal support, or like, I don't think they should be involved in my marriage. But when we got married, we signed a marriage certificate. To me, we signed a contract. I promised her that I was going to take care of her, and she made the same identical promises back to me, right? So to me, I think on that level, like, she's been a stay-at-home mom for what, 10 years, 11 years now? I mean, yeah, she's worked, sold her makeup, but for the most part, she's been a stay-at-home mom, and it works for us. I go make the money, she pays the bills. And I told her, I said, I think if we were to get divorced and I were to leave, then I could understand the court coming in and saying, hey, look, you got to help her. You do owe her something until she gets on her feet. You do, half of your, retirement. Hey, you're going to separate this stuff in half because you guys were in a contract and you were in this together. I 100% believe in that and agree with it, because I made that commitment to her. And if I don't want to hold up to my end of the commitment, then that's on me, and we're going to split everything in half, and that's everything. But when it comes to the kids, I'm like, hey, give me a chance to be dad. And that's where I think when they get too involved, they take away your for most fathers, they try to take away our rights, or at least
you can actually go to jail.
Them. At least suppress them.
You can go to jail. They'll garnish your wages, and you can actually go to jail for not paying your child support.
So
let me read this though.
Oh, go ahead.
Jen wrote, note topic for this discussion: child support and visitation is separate. Anyone who withholds child support payments, visitation privilege for ransom toward the non-custodial parent to visit is not being fair to kids unless abuse, neglect, if proven for reason to refuse visitation, then failure to financially support the kids should not keep visitation away from kids. That's the way courts see it. They're separate issues to address, to not address, connect, or relate penalty to visitation. I agree. I don't think that they should be combined. I don't think that visitation should be held in ransom if child support isn't paid. However, I do know, I have read, because I was looking it up, some calculators actually do put that in there, that depending on how much time or effort, their hopes is that paying the child support, their hopes, I read in one of these articles, one of their websites, one of their hopes for child support is to incentivize, like encourage the non-custodial parent who is paying child support to spend more time with their children. The problem is that it has been weaponized. Child support has been weaponized so bad to the fact that it's chasing non-custodial parents away because visitation is being held ransom by the custodial parent, not necessarily by the courts. That is an issue. I 100% agree with that. And then I know a lot of you are not going to agree with me about this either, but I don't, in general, if two parents cannot come together in agreement on support for the kids, I think 50-50 is what it should be. I don't think that courts need to be involved if a parent doesn't want to be responsible. If a parent doesn't want to be responsible, bye, see you later. That's less stress for me. I will figure it out. God will give me enough help in my life. I will hustle to do whatever I need to do. God forbid if we ever split or separated, I would never ask him for a dime. Would he help me? Yes, he would. But I think that we have that kind of relationship. I think that we have that kind of communication, that if I had an issue, just like Chelly was saying earlier, that she asked for help, and that's a hard thing to do for a lot of people that are independent. That's hard for us to do, to ask for help. But I think the harder part is for the other person to really hear and understand that they're not trying to take you for something, that they're really asking you for help. And I think that a lot of people who are no longer in relationships, I think that they hold a lot of that hurt and pain and vengeance, and that ownership of that pain as justification to hold against the other person and refuse to help. And then, some people like to, again, weaponize child support also and hold ransom visitation, which is wrong on all millions different of levels, period. If we were saying earlier, he was saying if you gave a father a chance to do the right thing, usually they do. But a lot of times, right. And a lot of times most people don't allow them to.
I did say that, and I have a question for you, Chelly, because of what you were just saying.
Sorry.
So you, Chelly, you said that you gave. So you kind of were what I was talking about earlier, right? I told her, I said, man, if you give me the opportunity to do the right thing, if this wasn't to work out and I were to go my way, I'm the type of person that I've hit rock bottom before. Like, I've had nothing but my vehicle and some clothes, and I was like, you could keep everything we have and I'll go find more shit somewhere else, because that's just what I do. I come up on stuff. You keep this. But the one thing, if it were to happen, like, just give me a chance to still be a good dad. Give me a chance to still be able to provide, because I will do that. And
don't make it so hard.
Don't make it hard. And I said, and the reason why we're talking about is because I had told her, I said, I feel like there's so many women out there that as soon as it happens, it's like the trust, everything, I get that's gone, but that's still the father of your kid. Like, give him an opportunity to do the right thing. If you from the get-go just shoot out there and be like, I think he's going to fuck me over, so I'm just going to beat him to the punch, that's what starts this snowball of you guys don't get along for the next 18 years or however old it is until they're 18. But my question for you is that when you and the baby daddy or whatever you want to call him, yes, when you guys split, she's like, my baby daddy.
And my baby daddy.
I can't remember. When you guys split, right? Did you have that ill will towards him?
No.
See, and I think right there, do you think that?
And that's like a big difference too.
Do you think that made it easier to work with him?
So for me, I think it's I don't know. I think it's a mindset. Like for me, I've always known like sometimes people grow out of love. Sometimes, you know, there is no happily ever after because you're in the wrong relationship, right? So for me, I think that especially when kids are involved, my first priority is going to always be what's in the best interest of my kids. So I feel the best interest of my kids is trying to be civil with the person I decided to have a child with, right? Because that is a choice I made. So I want to be able to do everything that I promised my child I would do. And that's remembering that even if I don't like him, whatever our ill will is, I don't put that on my child. My child is a neutral party. They are not a pawn. They should not be used as against parents. That is a pet peeve of mine. It is a huge pet peeve of mine. So for me, we broke up. We didn't break up on great terms, but no matter how broken I was, that has nothing to do with my kid. And I think that people, and yes, it is true, women can be emotional, which is why I kind of like laugh and I joke with Suni, because when she says women are too emotional, and I'm telling her I can't relate to that because I know how to turn that off. I know how to pick up my big girl panties and be a woman. See, those games that people play, those are not women games. Those are little girl games.
Right. It's a form of control, honestly.
It's a form of control, correct. So for me, so for me with my daughter, what is going to be beneficial to her was going to come first. And I would not sit there and argue or want to talk about anything because I don't know. I'm just one of those people. Once it's over, I know it's over. I know when the end is the end. So for me, I'm like, now we have to start a new chapter of our life. And that's still co-parenting our child. There's nothing I wanted more. So I think giving them the opportunity, and I did that. My husband now can tell you how many times I've given him the opportunity and been nice, bent backwards. I would invite him to all kind of events. I would send, and then even when he wouldn't show up, I would send him photos. I would constantly try. But I think that there are women who just can't do that. They are very, what do you call them? I forgot what they're called. God bless. What are they called? Scorned. Couldn't think of the word. So I think they hold on to that and they use that as a power tool. I do believe that.
Yes.
But I wanted to touch really quick before I forget. You were talking about how with child support and laws that they're connected. I think it varies by state. So here, I think it was a couple years ago, they changed the law here. Before it was if somebody broke, you guys, whatever, you went your separate ways and somebody went for child support, the custodial parent got, if it was one child, 20% of your income, right? That's it, period. And then for a second child, it was 24%, third child, 28, something like that. And you could go back every 2 years for an increase. That's what it was. And then
I think it's like that in Virginia too.
So that's the way it used to be here. It's not like that here anymore. They changed it. So now what they do is they basically go on the time, the missing parent
Right.
So they go on based on the time. So if you have like so many days, so many overnight days with your child,
Right.
then it's like they just go, it's like very minimal, which is what my friend who is a dad to his kids, that's what he has now. He fell under the new law when he got divorced. But I still think it's unfair because he still has to pay support when he literally
Right.
raises his kids. Like, when
Right.
I tell you, this man left his wife, and he didn't leave her, like, but he left the house with the wife. It was in his name originally. He left her with the house and the kids because he wanted his daughters to have a home. He went and got a place. He wasn't allowed to take anything out of his house. She didn't let him have anything. He bought everything on Craigslist. He had to buy everything on Craigslist, and he wound up losing the house because she never paid anything on it. Like, it was a big disaster. And like, he went through so much, and then to have to pay for a lawyer to do
Right.
all the child support stuff and all the the joint custody, and he actually wanted custody of his kids. But because mothers, they prefer them to be with the mother. I don't know why, because some of these mothers are so damn destructive.
Well, and it's actually against the legislation. It's against the law actually to be biased towards whatever gendered parent. Like, they're not supposed to have that bias. It's written in the law that they're not supposed to. And that fathers have all the rights. So I was
and that's why I said if I
at-
go to court again, I'm identifying as my son's mother. If they tell me I can't, I'm just going. They're not. I'm protected.
Hey, even if you did in a same-sex marriage or partnership or whatever, and they get divorced or they get separated or they go for child support or whatever, technically the courts will allow the non-custodial same-sex parent. They will issue child support because they entered into a contract or whatever agreement that they were going to bring this child into the relationship. That actually is a thing.
Yeah.
And so what are fathers' rights exactly? They're able to spend time with his children, be involved with his children's lives, having equal participation in parenting, including where they live, go to school and church, having equal access to medical and school records, having equal say in medical decisions, having the ability to parent or discipline his child without interference from their mother. When a father wants equal rights to parent his children, then he must also equally share in all the responsibility of raising those children, including financial support. All these rights hold true for mothers as well. The problem is mothers seem to less frequently have to worry about losing any of their rights. This brings up issues where mothers are consistently more likely to win full custody of the children, while fathers should also have an equal right to be the custodial parent of their children. This is not always the case, and again, because judges are biased when they shouldn't be, because fathers' rights for whatever reason is not recognized as often as it should be.
And I think some of the laws are so like outdated, right? Like, I think so if we talk about from when men were the breadwinners and women stayed home, when that was the norm, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about, I think things were considered more back then, like all these things were put into place way back then when the mother was the one who was the closest to the child because she was home with them all the time. So the bond was just greater. So I think those laws were put into place as like safety measures or what have you. But times have evolved. And this is one of the major problems that I have with these, with kind of like when we get into these conversations, is because I say that roles have reversed a lot. Like, there are women out there who are working and raising their kids on their own. There are men that are deadbeat dads. Yeah, there's women, there's a lot of women that are petty, which is why I don't have a lot of female friends, but that's another subject for another day. But so I think that when we talk about these subjects, like, I like to hear those both sides, because you can't talk about one without having a reason why women are hustling today. And I'm not saying that's the only reason, right? Some of them have faults, but there are women like myself who is a good person, who like, I'll give my all to everybody in my life. I've worked 2 jobs. I've hustled. Like I was saying, like when my daughter was 2, I was like, I'm strong. I'm good. I got this. Like, I'm going to do what I got to do, right? I have to rise. I have to pick myself up and I got to carry on. I don't need anything from him. And that was my attitude. Like, I should not have to force you to support your child, right?
Right, 100%.
I had that attitude for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I was working 2 jobs and barely seeing my kids.
Yeah.
That is, after 5 years, that is a very hard pill to swallow. When you're trying to raise 3 daughters to be strong women. And you have to, at some point for me, I had to weigh, do I want to spend quality time and see my kids? Or am I going to go against my pride and get the help that I need? Because I've asked kindly, I've done, I did all the loops. You know what I mean? I danced to his tune. So at that point you weigh those options. So that's why I say there's always like 2 sides to a coin. Like not every scenario fits a certain story. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like Chris's situation, trying to be a good dad, trying to do the right thing. He's getting screwed by the system because he has a baby mama who knows how to play the system. You know what I'm saying? Wait
till I tell you what she did.
Well, when somebody like me didn't even want to be a part of that system. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, it was for me, it was like one of the most terrible things to have to go to court to say like, hey, you know, like I can't do this by myself. Like I'm missing out on watching my kids grow up.
Yeah. And then that's why I said, like, everyone has every situation. And that's why I said that in the beginning, and why I said that on my post too, is that I understand every situation is different. I'm not knocking anybody for the choices they make. I just think at that point, I would have been like, bye. That's me though. You went 5 years of trying to help, and you were not doing that, and you felt like you were at this point where you didn't have a choice and you absolutely needed help. I think at that point it wouldn't have mattered if you would have either went for child support or you went for assistance. They still would have went after him for child support, so it kind of didn't matter.
Well, no, I don't mean assistance like that. I was working. I'm just saying I'm working 2 jobs and I'm not watching my kids grow up, because remember, one of my main jobs, if I get caught on a late job, there's no saying I got to go home to my kids.
Yeah.
You don't get that option. You're stuck. You're dealing with it. Find another way. So between that and working another job, I'm missing out on watching the best thing that's ever happened to me grow up. And I didn't want to miss those days anymore. I did it for 5 years. So at some point I had to look at life and say, I need to swallow my pride a little bit. Because one, I didn't bring this kid into life by myself. And I need help. And this little bit of help will help me so that I don't need that second job so I can see my kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I want to go back to something you said, because you brought up.
I want to address this in a little. I don't want to lose this one.
We'll put it up and then because I got my notes.
Okay, so Fresh News 247 asked. So I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna let you know right now, if you're still watching, that this is a little bit of a complicated situation, but the answer is actually not complicated. Look, my uncle is telling me and his ex-wife we owe him child support after he told my auntie. Okay, you guys. After she told my auntie that she cannot see her children anymore, my cousins, because she's with me. So he's with his aunt. Okay. And then he wants to know how he can ask for child support. Well, because your auntie and him are now in a custody battle for your cousins. So that's how he can ask for child support. Number 2, I still don't think it's right that he's holding hostage the children seeing her. I think that it might probably be a sticky situation if you were to be there in the beginning, because I don't know how long ago this was, because I'm telling you right now that that's a touchy subject. But he can ask for child support because he shares He's the father, she's the mother of those children. Therefore, he can ask her for child support if he has those children right now.
See, and this all goes back to that.
Are the kids with him?
What's that?
Is that what I'm understanding? The kids are with him.
With the uncle. I think that they're with the uncle.
So the kids are with their father, their biological father.
Correct.
And he's asking her for child support.
Correct.
Because she's the mother.
Correct.
So yeah, so I think regardless of the fact of what his relationship
went down, exactly. That's why I said it's a complicated situation, but it's actually an easy answer.
Because if he's taking care of the kids, he has the right to ask for child support for his children, and
but not to stop visitation.
Right. See, like here you can't do that, and that's why I said it varies by state by state. Here you can't do that. So this is what I tell people all the time. Like, I know it's really difficult for people to do it, and it's hard to afford it, but you can always petition the court pro se. So it is a minimal fee. It is like a very minimal fee, and they will give you a form, and it's pretty much filled out, and you just fill out the little parts of it, and it's like it's very minimal fee, and then you're basically your own lawyer. And all you're gonna tell them anyway is that you want to see your children. Once you get the order, and if she doesn't follow it, you call the police and you make a report. At some point, you need it can be a little hassle, but at least you're getting it documented so that a judge can see the shenanigans that's going on.
Well, I mean, there's shenanigans anyways, but
there are shenanigans, but at some point, like at least here, like I can't tell you how many reports I make for people trying to hold their kids hostage or not being there according to a court order. But the only time they follow it is the only time the police can do anything here is if there is an actual court order.
Yeah. Amy Young says, here in Maine, whoever has a children, child support is whoever has a job. When both have jobs, they both pay the same amount.
And that's where we go back to our county, where I say our county is a little bit more fair than most. And I'm going to get into that because I have something that I think we'll go with that. But I want to go back because you had brought something up about the times have changed. And you were talking about how, this was set up back, when families were still together. And I think that's something that the reason why we're in the situation that we're in is because we as Americans, we have lost that traditional family. And more often than not, you're seeing more people have children out of wedlock, which leads that it puts us in these situations. Because back then, even if people didn't like each other, they stayed married till they died. And they just, because they made that commitment. Now, you don't see that. And I understand some of it because if you're in a toxic relationship, I do believe 100% you should get out. But we've lost that traditional family. And because of that, times have changed. And that rule hasn't really changed with the times because we still go right back to saying, okay, like it's 1960, 1970, the mom's with them all day. Like you were saying, they're the ones that she goes to. The mom's going to get, she's got first right because they're with her. She's mom. We're going to go ahead and give the kids to mom. And the difference is now is maybe back then, I don't think maybe dad didn't need to be as involved in life. And this is one point I want to make. So, okay, because we didn't have all the crap going on that we have going on now. So it was okay for dad to be somewhat absent and to be at work. But that was the times. And then he filled in when he needed to, like showing up to the football games or whatever, taking the kid fishing. But times have changed. Now,
whooping that ass.
Yeah, and you could beat your kid and you kept your kid straight and there was respect. Now you even look at your kid funny and
I don't know about beating your kid, but
hey, back then they would beat you could give your kid an ass whooping.
There's a difference between a beating and an ass whooping.
No, some of those kids probably got beat because there were some badass kids, and then you straightened them up. And some kids got ass whoopings, and some kids maybe got a chancla or something. But besides the point. So what I'm getting to is, yes, times have changed, and I agree with you. And the world that we're living in now is not the same as it is then. And you need both parents. You, especially these young men, like they need a father in their life to show them how to be a man. And I think there's a lot of women out there like, oh, she don't need her daddy. No, that little girl needs her daddy. And if her daddy has some fucking common sense, he would be in her life and show his girl how a man should treat a woman.
Yeah.
If you, and this is where I go back to that same thing. If you allow us the opportunity, we will do the right thing. I think most of us will. You get the one, you're always going to get guys that don't.
Nobody likes to be forced to do anything.
And that's it. When you're forced, you get into these situations. And then the other thing I want to go off onto real quick is I'm curious to see how this is going to play out in the LBGT XYZ plus community. Because traditionally the kids go to mom and mom gets the rights. Well, when dad's divorced, who's mom? I mean, how are they going to work that out? I'm waiting for somebody to.
I just told you the courts award the same thing. If it's a same-sex marriage and they go into an agreement to bring a child or children into their relationship, if they separate, then
no, I'm talking about is like, are they going to be like, hey, which one of you's a little bit more than the other one?
Oh.
You get the kids are going with you.
No. They will say non-custodial, custodial parent.
We need Austin or
I like Chris's version. What was that, Chris? Which one of you are more what?
You missed the hand. This one more than the other one.
I just heard I didn't see the hand. I just heard the woo. I was like, wait, is that a pronoun? Where's Austin when you need him to answer questions?
He's watching the DC thing.
Is he?
He's following that right now.
Well, and then that's going to like Amy Young, she was talking about Maine. So my experience going through the court system, like they had us fill out this expense sheet, and we had to swap expense sheets and then provide one to the judge. And I remember when I got the expense sheet before we went to see the mediator, and I was pissed because I was like, who spends $600 a month on entertainment? Who spends $800 a month on food? Like, it was ridiculous on what the expenses were put down and then adding in the rent. And as soon as I got her expense sheet, I was like, dude, I'm fucked. Like, I'm not going to beat this. Like, she just pretty much made up numbers. So I was terrified until we got to the back, and I was like talking to the mediator, and I'm like, hey man, this expense sheet, like what are you doing for $500? Oh, that's none of your business. You don't need to know what $500 expense I have on entertainment. I'm like, that's a lot. Like, I shouldn't pay for your entertainment. And then I was like, and you don't pay all this rent. Like, you got to do. You guys split the rent. I know you split the rent because I've talked to dude because I used to work with him. Like, come on. And I'm sitting there like, man, this is messed up. I'm going to do that. And I can't say, it does vary from county to county because our county does go in there. And the one thing that I did right was, I think Josh truly said earlier, like shave, like I shaved when I went to court the first time. I played, I was professional.
That's not what he meant, but yeah.
Oh, maybe I misunderstood.
I was going to say,
that's not what he meant. He was talking about when you were like, I'm going to go to court, identify as a woman. He said, make sure I shave.
Oh, that's what that was. Hey, I will. But no, I went in, and I've always had joint physical and legal custody of my son. I've always had him 50% of the times, and there was a point in time where I had him more. But when we went in for that thing, for that time, and then when they broke down, like, hey, they asked me, how much are you making and how much is she making? And we put the expenses up. And I was making, I think, about $200 more than her. And they said, okay, well, pretty much what it came down to is like, if you're making 21 and she's making 19, then we're going to even this out to where you're both making 2,000, and I'm going to take 100 from you and give it to her. And then, but what I did internal was, okay, look, I'm paying for, and this is where I said, if you allow me to be a good dad, I will. I'm paying for health insurance. I'm paying for co-payments. I'm paying for clothes. And I mean, I'm going down the list. Like, these are all the things I'm paying for. And I'm not even asking for child support. I don't want nothing for him, but I'm taking care of my son because that was when she became pregnant and I became a father. That was the choice that I decided that I was going to be that father and take care of him. and I'm going to do that for any of my kids until they're old enough to go out on their own. I will pay for what they need up until like recently with these whole braces things, but it's besides the point. I'm going to take care of them. And I was able to get away with not getting child support. And that's where I say, like, I've been lucky, more lucky than some people, but I've also had a bunch of good advice from other men that had been through it.
And then to clarify on that, he's not saying that he got out of paying child support because he didn't want to. It was more that they were making just about the same amount, that either one of them, depending on the tax year and what the expenses were for that year, either one would have had to pay the other one child support for the year. So it didn't really matter at the time, besides the fact that we were already paying 50% of of all the expenses at that point, and still to this day. And there are some things where she might cover, or we might cover, or we'll split, or whatever. But I mean, up to this point, it's been 12 years now that we've been through this. So there's a lot of, it was difficult. I'm not saying that it was easy the whole time, but it was something that had to be worked on over time, which leads me to blended families and how this affects child support, how it affects the relationship. Did I skip over some of your?
No, I was just going to say, because I don't want it to seem like it was that easy. There was a rough 3 years. Like, I had, when we first went to court, they said, okay, you're going to pay $200 and something, or I can't remember what the amount was, and you're going to be gone for this amount of months. I think it was $2 something every 2 weeks. And that $2 something was to cover the child support. It was to cover things that I would typically cover. So after the court was done, I remember having a discussion, and I told her, I said, hey, look, I know that this money is supposed to be going to this, this, and that. When I leave, my wife will cover that. And then we don't have to physically give you a check. We'll continue to cover our end. And she agreed to it. So we covered everything while I was gone. And immediately after that, she went down to the Department of Child Services and filed the paperwork anyways, even though we had verbally agreed that I would pay for it. So we're over here for 5 months. She's paying all my expenses that I would have paid. And I think he was still coming over. Yeah. Yeah. And he was still coming over to my house to be with her.
I mean, not a lot, because I wasn't allowed, but yeah. He
came over and visited.
I tried.
And so when I got back, I came back and I had a $5,000 back child support due. They were going to take my license. If I didn't pay it, they were talking about jail time.
And garnishing your wages.
Yes, garnish my wages. I mean, she put me through the ringer for like the next 6 months. And 6 months down the road, I found out that the reason why I gave her my address. She knew where we lived, because she had dropped them off. And also, if she needed to get a hold of me, she could have sent the mail to my basic training, because there was an email. She could have sent me the stuff, and I would have got it there and been like, oh, shit. It would suck to have been in basic training and to receive that, but at least I would have known, and I could have contacted her, and we could have dealt with it. When I got back, it was like, boom. The first thing I get in the mail is this paperwork, because I got one at the house, and I get into it with her in front of her house, and her dude walks out with this stack of mail, and he was like, hey, here, dude, this is why you got back child support, because they've been trying to get a hold of you for 5 months, and she didn't know where you were at, which was a lie. And she told them that you were living at this address, which was actually her grandma's house. So even though she lied, and I'm like, I tried to go to the Department of Child Services, and I tried to fight it, and like, hey, look, she lied to you. Here's the emails where I gave her my address. Here's the proof that I paid her. Here's the checks. They were like, nope, you should have gave her the money. She said you didn't give her the money. She filed the paperwork, and we haven't been able to find you for 5 months. We're taking it back. And then I had to go and tell her, like, hey, look, if you don't drop this, I'm going to have to take you to court. I don't want to take you to court, because this is not how things should be. But I will get a lawyer, and I will push this, because you lied to the Department of Child Services and told them you didn't know where I was at.
And kept your mail.
And kept my mail from me, and had it purposely sent somewhere else.
And she had complete ability to talk to me, to get a hold of me, because I was already talking to her to get visitation with our son to come visit with his sibling. And so there was no way that she could not get a hold of the information.
Like, I don't want anybody to think like I've had it easy. I had a rough couple years. But because I talked to other people, and it's not just men, I've talked to other women too. Like, I've had conversations, and it's helped me out. So when I finally did go to court and I was able to say, okay, look, we're making the same amount. This is what's going, because I had other women that I work with that knew my situation because we all worked in the same spot and didn't like seeing what I was going through. And they were like, hey, look, this is what I did. You got to go in there. You know, she's going to do this, and that. Be prepared for it. So I had a lot of help from both sides. So it wasn't easy. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to get where I'm at. It's not something that happens overnight.
And it's worth it. So to all those fathers or mothers who are having an issue with visitation or child support or any of those things, like, there is hope. It takes work. It takes educating yourself on the system. It takes self-control, holding yourself properly when you go to file, like really knowing what your rights are and connecting with other people who understand and who can help you through these situations. Like, it's very possible to do that, to not get your way, but to fight your way through it, to defend yourself, and to hold on to all of your rights as a parent, because those are your God-given rights to be a parent. No one should be able to take that away from you or force you or put you in a corner and force you to do things that you shouldn't have to do. There's so many people who are paying for another person's lifestyle when it's not their responsibility to. They should only be paying for, what they're responsible for. And that's really it, especially good parents who are present and active and who are there all the time. And being taken for child support on top of the time that they are with their kids. Like, I don't believe in that. I don't think that it should happen. I don't think that the court should have anything to do with that at all, period. I don't want to ignore this. Lindsay says Larry got over 100,000 of back child support tacked on New York because his ex lied and said she never paid him a dime, right, when she applied for welfare. Exactly. And so that's part of what I was saying before. Like, welfare will, even if they apply for welfare, if they apply for services, and Charlie, you were saying in some states, most states, it might be like that, or it varies somewhere. But from what I understand, when they go to file for welfare, they were going to ask you for your child's father's mother's information so that they can sue them. In other words, pursue them for financial support, because they're going to need that money to pay themselves on the back end, which is actually what I was looking here. So Psychology Today, there's an article on here from December 5th, 2008. It's titled Welfare and Child Support, Nobody Wins. So what ends up happening is that, let me find it. Dang it, I just had it. Half of the money that is owed, not to children, but to the state and federal governments. So basically, women who apply for welfare must sign over to the government any money owed them by their children's fathers, and they are forced to sue the fathers to get that money, Hatcher says. Kids lose, but at least the argument goes, state and federal governments benefit. They and taxpayers are supposed to get back some of the money spent on welfare. And so, but as Hatcher found out, that's not what happens. The government loses money on the reimbursement program. In 2006, state governments and the feds collected $2 billion in reimbursements, but they spent $5.6 billion in administrative costs to collect that $2 billion. Those administration costs also collected $22 million that was returned to families. So it's easy to justify the costs. The point here, however, is that the program does not make money for the government. In other words, nobody wins. Not the children, not the government, and not the taxpayers. The one thing that is clear is that families suffer. So even if they were to go for welfare, they're going to tack on the back end the father or the non-custodial parent's information so they could go after them for that money.
Yeah. No, when I said earlier, I wasn't talking about welfare. It was I think we were talking about the child support.
And the calculator.
Yeah. But I was talking about, yeah, no, welfare, it does. So anytime someone applies for welfare, and they're getting they're going to ask for the father's information, and they're going to look him up by social. If he's working, they're going to take it directly out of his check. They do that here.
Right. And so, like Christy is saying, I know in Utah, they charge you a fee for them to collect the money too. And so that's what that is. So when a parent or a person is, or whatever you want, mother, father, is applying for welfare, they ask for the non-custodial parent information because they want to collect that money for part of those fees. So if you're not, so I know there's some women who are like, he didn't pay me everything, was because they took some of those fees for themselves. That's how come also you're not getting all of it either.
Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to go on touch on because a lot of this the topic today was not just on co-parenting, not just on child support, but parenting, relationships, court systems, which we touched a lot on, and which I would say that we all agree that the family court system seriously needs to be fixed. It needs to be changed, reformed. There's a whole lot of I found this other site here where they're trying to what policies what policymakers need to know and what policymakers can do. So it's basically a list of things that they need to take into consideration when thinking about or calculating child support or the whole situation, and what they can do for legislation to help reflect that and change what's currently happening right now. So for example, indirectly linking father's ability to pay with child visitations can prevent fathers from being positively engaged in their children's lives. When also on the same note, for some reason, legislation thinks that it's going to encourage them to have more, to want to be more involved, when really it doesn't. I don't think forcing anybody to do anything encourages them to want to. But so that is what policymakers need to know and what they can do. So what they can do is to consider whole family approaches that do not adversely affect positive parenting and healthy child development. So there are people who are trying to change this. It's just going to take time. And I think educating people like us and having these conversations is a start, so that we can empower more non-custodial parents, if that's what you want to call it, to fight for the rights as parents and for the right thing to happen, because there's a lot of people in the world who want to take advantage and screw other people over. Just in general, it doesn't even have to be with child support. So court systems, we're talking about that. Relationships, children, how it affects them in family units, and forgiveness. Because I mean, we're a blended family, and I think having that understanding as well, knowing what you can be involved in and what you can't be. I haven't ever been involved in the legal part of that, because that's not my place. I don't have, as far as you know what I'm saying, as far as legal rights go, right? If I were to sit in the court, like, I would really just be there to listen and to watch and to support him. I've never gone, because why? My kids are home. I'm staying with the kids. And also, I don't need to be there. I don't want to cause more issues for anyone in the courts. I personally don't think, like, as far as like a bonus parent goes, when it comes to the kids in the home, or, you know, activities that we're all doing, or sports or whatever, I don't feel that the bonus parents should be left out of that. I don't feel like, because I've never done that. She might not have liked it for quite some time, but I never meant it in like a bad way. Like, I was never trying to take a place. I was never trying to do, all I wanted to do was share in the life of the child that we were going to be raising together, because there was that house and this house. Now, as far as legality goes, like legal things, court things, I don't think, I know that there's some bonus parents who are knee deep in the
situation.
Yeah, knee deep in the situation, determining visitation, determining this and this. I know that I had a big part in the beginning, but that was situation and circumstance. He was gone for 5.5 months in the beginning when my daughter was born. And then he would be gone for weeks, months at a time for the next 5 years?
Something like that,
The next 5 years. And so I took a big step into co-parenting, which was not always easy at the time because I'm not his biological parent. And so that was held over me for a long time. I had to learn over the years to finally, I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And so I took a big step back. Looking back at everything. So where I'm going with this is, Shelly, how do you feel? I mean, I don't think you ever had to deal with that, did you?
No. So I decided long time ago, because I told you I don't have many female friends for reasons of pettiness and stuff like baby mama has put Chris through. And no, I don't think every woman's like that, but I just know a lot. I grew up in the hood, so a lot of them were like that. Period. So I just decided I would never date a guy with kids ever, ever.
You know what? Me too. But here I am.
But I really did. Yeah. So yeah, I never dated a guy with kids, but I will say, as a mother, who, like my ex, he wound up getting married, and her and I, we didn't have I wouldn't say we had a bad relationship or a good relationship. Like, she came to pick up my daughter once or twice, and I was civil to her because I was like, "Girl, I want to buy you a drink. I want to take her to dinner."
And it's very hard to find women like that are willing to be open, and to that it's not a competition, or that it's not like a fight for position or whatever, and really being open to accept that there's more help and more love to be added to the situation.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful for moms like you.
So she was his wife. His new wife was actually a better person than he was, and a better parent than he was, to be honest. My only thing was, I am like because I had this thing with like women being petty and me not knowing really who she was and stuff. For me, my only concern was, one, they are my kids. They came out of my body. I gave them birth. I carried them. I nurtured them. And if anyone ever touches my child,
Oh yeah.
we are going to have a problem. That was my only rule. Like, hey, if the child does something, because my kid should know better not to disrespect anybody, period. But if my child does something, you as the father, it is your job to put them in their place. Like, if that was my rule, like, don't let me, because I'm like, he was not making great choices. So I was like, well, his choices in women can't be that great either anymore, because he done lost his mind. So that was kind of like one of my concerns, but that was it. Her and I have gotten together because he has another child with her now, so that my daughter and her sister could see each other, because they still, my daughter's 24 now, but they still don't really see each other. So I'm like, yeah, unless we get together to let these kids see one another, because he's often married with someone else now. So
oh yeah, that's hard.
He's living his best life. But yeah, so no, I think that people don't realize, the more people that a child has in their life that are nurturing and caring and loving people, like that is just such a benefit to a kid. You know what I mean? And like I said, my daughter to this day, she was so nice to me. She was nicer than my dad was.
Yeah.
So I was thankful that she was like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I was very grateful for bonus parents like you.
Thanks. I when we come across like parents that are like that, they're like, no, I would be thankful. And because there are those stories of, the evil step parent or whatever. And currently, like, we know some kids that that are like, yeah, my step parent, they're kind of like this, and you know what I mean? Like there's that stigma or whatever. And I knew that like I didn't want to be that either. I didn't want to be that kind. Um, and we had this conversation when we first began to start having children, is that, or building the family, growing the family, was that I didn't want them to ever feel like they were different, that, excuse me, that they were all the same, that we loved them all the same, even if he wasn't here all the time, that there was nothing different, because I didn't want them to end up growing up and then just not hanging out, or for whatever reason, or even when his mom began to have more kids or whatever, it was kind of the same thing. Like they are their brothers and sisters. Like I didn't differentiate that at all. They know that those are his brothers and sisters. They know that, but they don't refer to them like that. So it's like brother so and so or sister so and so. That's how we talk about them, so that, because also when they're out and about, because they're all around the same age, some of them, a couple of them, and they go to the same school, and so I never want them to be at the same school and be like, oh well, those are his siblings. You know what I mean? I didn't want that. I didn't want there to be that separation. I wanted them to at least
that's pretty
be able
that's
to know
pretty
each
dope.
other.
That's actually really dope though. That's super dope. And that's the thing, is that I think that there are so many people in the world who, that if they can just take their feelings out of stuff,
Right.
you could function so good. Like for you to be able to say, like, this is, I don't want my kids to have that type of relationship with them. Like I want them to just be normal kids, because that's what we should want for our kids. We should want our kids to not worry about, hey, Missy, I'm sorry, my granddaughter's over. She's just running her little mouth too. But huh?
Nothing.
What did he say?
I said she's. You said she's Puerto Rican.
My granddaughter?
Yeah.
She black. Why, you racist?
Hi, baby. And to answer that, no, he's not. Okay.
No, that was because the comment I made earlier on our little group message. I forget what she said.
I remember. It was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I said, no, she's black. Why, you racist? Because I called you racist earlier. It's a part of joke. But you know what? Like, I think that's pretty dope. And I think that so many people, a lot of the trauma that happens to our children starts with their parents.
Right.
A lot of it is because of the divide. You're my son said I'm traumatized.
He's been through so much.
Yeah. But I think that if people were to take their feelings out of it and just be an adult, and there's so many people that can't. They're just too emotional. They're too tied to emotions. So unfortunately, and the rest of us normal people got to deal with that.
Right.
Like,
or there's like a whole tug of war of control in one way, one form. And that's so hard to break, so hard to get past, because there's that struggle for control, but then the struggle for control then also puts up walls of mistrust, and then it's really hard to break those down. Even if you're in the situation for years and years and years, it still makes it really hard, because you'll take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 1 step forward, 5 steps back, like constantly. It doesn't help when there's other issues involved either. But I just wanted to touch on that, like when it comes to blended families and dealing with courts and dealing with custodies and dealing with all that. And like I don't think that, I mean, because I haven't been involved with the legal stuff. I mean, bonus parents don't really have those type of rights when it comes there. But I also feel like, and maybe that's because we've done it for so long, shuttling the kids to and from school, being really active and involved with the teachers and with the doctors as much as possible, being able to talk to them on that level. It's hard when both households can't agree on something like that. It affects the children in such a big way. Going through custody and child support is just something else on top of that, and it trickles down into them, which can be 100% avoided. You have something to say?
I think because we're
Yeah, no, I
so
know. I'm watching the time. I'm going down my list of what I want to touch on. Okay.
because I'm gonna head. Uh,
What do you say?
oh, I'm gonna wrap up because I got to go for a minute.
You're gonna wrap up for you, or
Yes.
you're gonna wrap up this whole thing?
No,
Because that's not what it sounded like. I'm like, hold on, homie.
I'm gonna
I
wrap
have
up.
one more thing to touch on.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna wrap up for me before I step away. And then, what was the last thing you want to talk?
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Ooh, I'll wait. Never mind. I had drank a lot of coffee, but I'll wait.
I knew. I was like, he got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, set him there. Hey, you know what? You go ahead and talk about forgiveness. I'm just going to go, and I'll be right back because that might just fit in to my little end right here. Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, you go do that. So it brings everything all together because I don't typically like to leave a conversation of just pain and anguish and suffering and struggle without some kind of solution or without some kind of positivity to go with that, because there's already so much pain and hurt and confusion and separation and breakdown of so many things that no one tends to offer, like peace or love or light or the big one is forgiveness. And I say forgiveness because in situations like this, a lot of the times vengeance and destruction and unwillingness to understand the other side or unwillingness to work with the other side, a lot of it comes from unforgiveness because of the pain that we've gone through or things that we don't understand or we didn't get what we want, or our life didn't end up the way that we were seeing it, and or they end up with the life we thought we were supposed to have. Like all of those things, they create these feelings and they create animosity and they create destruction. And I want to make sure that we're infusing love and life and good energy and good positivity into this subject that can be so dark and frustrating. So one is that there is help for those who are looking for help during child custody battles or child support, those kinds of things, especially for fathers. Please don't be afraid to look up. If you're on Facebook, social media, there are groups for that. There are websites for that, for fathers' rights. Please look into it. Please educate yourself. There are so many other people like you that just need to connect and that just need to be encouraged to keep on the fight, because it's worth it, even though people are draining and so full of animosity that it literally takes your energy away. Just know that you're not alone, and that there are people there to help you and help educate you on what you need to do next. And don't give away your power to where these other people are weighing in on you and making you feel like you're nothing or you don't have anything or that you're not going to win. Number one. So that's for both fathers and mothers who are going through this situation. Number two, blended families are not always the easiest, especially when it's brand new or you're building, starting to grow families, or, blended. We know what blended is. They have kids already, they come together and they have more kids, or so and so forth. That's where forgiveness comes in. It's really hard to blend families when there's no forgiveness. And forgiveness doesn't mean that you condone all the crappy things that they did or do or are going to do. It doesn't mean that you give them a free reign or free green card to continue to do these things to you or to drive you through the mud. What it means is that you are no longer going to allow what they do, say, think of you to affect how you perceive yourself and how you react to the situation at hand. It means that you are no longer going to sink to their level, or you're not going to allow whatever they're doing to allow you to influence you to blow up and lose your shit and make a big mess of things. Instead, it means that you understand the situation and that you're willing to ebb and flow with it and be a better person in it. So forgiveness is huge. It's not just for the other people, it really is for you. And then in turn, for the people around you. And in this situation, it's your children and your family unit and your co-parenting relationship. Once you can get outside of yourself for those things, then co-parenting is a little bit easier, because now you're willing to listen, to understand, and to work with each other. And I say these things because not everyone's like Chelly, where she could put her feelings aside and it is what it is. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that just they're in their feelings, that they're hurt, they're pain, they're all these things, and they think that they deserve this or that, or they're justified. And so I want to make sure that forgiveness is key for healthy, positive relationships in your family, within your own mind, with your children, and with your co-parents. Because if you don't have a healthy co-parent relationship, your children are going to see that. And don't forget that we are their examples of how to be good people, of how to problem solve, and how, God forbid, if they're ever in that situation, that they will know how to pursue it and go through it. Pursue it and go through it. Period. Chelly, what are your final words on this?
Hey, sorry, my cat was losing her shit. So yeah, I agree. I think that push her down. I think that we definitely need to find it in ourselves to be bigger people, and we have to remember who is the most important person in this situation, and that's the child. I think that we as adults need to learn to check ourselves so that therefore our children are so smart, and they see and they feel everything. They know when things are off. They may not know what it is, but they know when things are off. And I think that people need to remember to always put the child first. And I think that our children would be so much better off if we put our children first. And whatever it takes to let go of whatever hurt that's making you feel like you have to do all these things. Like you have to you don't have to forgive, like John Tisha said. You don't have to forgive like, okay, I'm giving you a pass and all is forgiven, or brush it under the rug. But you need to forgive for yourself, first of all. Like you need to forgive in any situation. You need to forgive for yourself, so that you can move on. You're not forgiving for them. You're forgiving for yourself, so that you can move on and be happy and be healthy and create a better relationship, so that the child can be that much more successful in building relationships as they grow.
Exactly. Babe?
He looks like he's about to go in.
Well, excuse you.
I'm like, wait.
Hey, so one, because you guys were on this, you guys did a little something like this earlier with Suni. Hey, Mother's Day is for mothers. Father's Day is for fathers. Okay, check this out. Moms, you don't know how to raise men. You help out in it, but you don't know how to raise a man, because there's things that men go through. There's things that men go through that you're not going to understand, and you're not going to be able to talk to them. Same thing. I can't be a mother. I can't tell my daughter about periods and how to take care of that and what to do. So I could be a good dad. That's all I can be as a father. If we weren't together, I could find her help. But for those people that are like, oh, I got to fill in and play both. No, you're a mother being a parent. And I think people don't realize that is you're not playing both mom and dad. No, you're a mom and you're being a parent and you're covering down, but that does not make you dad. And same thing that goes for fathers. If you're a single father and you're covering down because mom's not there, guess what? You're just a parent. You're not a mother, because there's things that you're not going to be able to teach that kid that a mom can. And that goes into my next thing. One, so deadbeat dads, you're part of the problem in this world. If you ain't paying attention to your kid, if you ain't out there checking your kid or spending time with your kid or picking your kid up or taking care of them, whether it's financially, emotionally, just being there in their life, you are the problem in this world right now in America, because you got a lot of kids out there running around. And I'm specifically talking about these young men that have no father doing stupid shit, and they have no guidance. And if you think they're going to listen to their mom and that their mom's going to put them in check, no, it's not going to happen. These young men need dads in their lives. And if you just don't want to show up, that's bad on you. And you're the reason why we're in this situation that we're in, because You can't just be a dad and show up when you need to be there. At the same time, there's a lot of spiteful moms out there. There's a lot of angry moms out there. Hey, you gotta let it go, because I understand dads walk away from their kids. At the same time, I've seen a lot of moms that are just ruthless, and it all comes down to money and playing the system. And you treat the dude like shit, dangling his kids over him and threatening him with money. Hey, you want that dad to be a dad? Give him a fair chance. Give him an opportunity to be a dad, and then let him fail. Don't put him on the defense right away. It's got to go both ways. Which goes into my other thing, right? You were talking about emotion. Okay. There's a difference between reacting with emotion and showing emotion. Because I'm with, like, Charlie, we were talking about this earlier. Like, okay, I put my emotions aside, and you have to, during certain situations, you got to learn to put your emotions aside, take a minute, breathe, and then think about what you're doing. If you just react with emotion, that's when shit just hits the fan. Now, you can show emotion, because this is one thing, like, I'll tell people, like, man, you got to stop being so emotional. But it's not just being emotional. It's you got to stop reacting with emotion. And that is another problem in America, is because they know we're emotional people, that these type of things happen, and then you react with emotion and you look like a fool later. You got to slow down and see and understand what you're going through, and be clear-headed as you're going through, your situation. But you can still show emotion. There ain't nothing wrong with that. I didn't like it. Hey, for you young adults out there, teenagers, young adults having sex, play adult games, you win adult prizes, and sometimes you win a baby. I mean, that's just how it is. You might not understand that, but you play adult games, sometimes you win a baby. And it might take a little bit, but that's what you get. And
I won 5.
Hey. And sometimes you don't want, you're not ready for it or whatever. Hey, that's what happens. And when you're in that situation, guess what? You have to grow up. And here's the thing. I think a lot of people put expectations out on people. You can't expect that another person, if I'm going to talk to females real quick. If you're a female and you're expecting this dude that you're not married to come through and provide for you, you already failed. Because one, if you just got into a relationship and you ain't really been with this dude or know this dude, and you get into a relationship and you only been together for a week or two, you're in this category with me where we fucked up in life and now we got to pay for it. If you have expectations that person's going to come through for you, hey, you're wrong. You shouldn't expect nothing from nobody, because when you have expectations like that, people are going to fail you. So you got to think about the relationships that you're getting into. My other thing, I got a couple more. One, when you're in this relationship, co-parenting is hard work. And the thing is, it comes with sacrifice. Like, you got to be willing to sacrifice and put your pride aside. And you got to, we did I know me, Jartisha, Chelly, and Ricky, your husband. Mm-hmm. We did that marriage. We did a marriage live a while back. And I know we had brought up, like, you got to fight for each other, not with each other. Mm-hmm. Hey, the same shit goes for co-parenting. Mm-hmm. I guarantee to stop. Like, this is why things have gotten easier for me. When you stop trying to fight with the other parent, and you start trying to work things out and fight for your kid and to make things better, I'm telling you, it does get easier. I'm not saying that it's the easiest, but it gets easier. But it has to go both ways. And I think that was it. Oh, hey, my last one. And if you are in a relationship with step parents, you are a parent. You are just influential in that kid's life as anybody else. And I'm saying that from experience, because I used to have a hard time really feeling anything towards my stepmom, because I was holding on to a lot, and a lot of it wasn't her fault. It took my stepdad to come into the situation, my mom's husband, to come into the situation and give me some advice and put some things into perspective. And he asked me questions like, why do you not like her? What does she do to you? And we had this little heart to heart one day, because we were talking about our relationship, because we had bumped heads, and we had this conversation, and he helped me be able to let things go so I could love my stepmom. And we're to the point now where she calls us her kids. She calls us our sons. And my mom's cool with it. And my dad's cool. it's helped me heal, and it makes things better. You can't, step parents, you were influential in your kids' lives. And for the parents, because I have somebody, and he's in the family, and we talked about this one time. And I'm not going to speak to the women on this one. This is just to the dudes. If you're the dad and you see the stepdad, hey, it's rough. You got to really eat it. But my son has a stepdad. I didn't care for the dude before, just because we known each other. I didn't really have no reason not to care for him. I mean, I never really had beef with him, but I just didn't really. I wasn't feeling the dude. It just, there were some things about him. And then we got to talking to him. I'm like, this is a cool dude. And now I see him, I shake hands, we talk, what's up, brother? Da, 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 da. You know what? I had to put that aside because I want me and him to be on good terms, because he's the other dude in my son's life, the other man that's going to show my son how to be a man. And there's things that we agree on and we have an understanding. And that's what you want. And if you're the other dude, and don't be a dick to the dad. Don't when he pulls up to pick up his kid or vice versa, don't dog each other out, because then you put the kids in a bad situation. And overall, you got to let the money go, the emotion go. The most important thing is putting the kids first, because when you're no longer, if you're not married or you're no longer in a marriage, we believe our marriage comes first. We have to work on us. Some people might not, but I'm 100% when you're not in a relationship and you're split, the kid comes first. And that means you have to sacrifice a lot, and you have to be willing to really fight to make life good for your kid. And that's all I have.
Well, there you go.
Touche. I agree.
One more thing, just because I got a buddy out there, man. And if you're a piece of shit parent and you can't support your kid, or you're on drugs and you're dragging your kids through the dirt, man, if you can't take care of your kids, let them go. Ain't nobody going to judge you. If you let your kids go stay with the other parent because the other parent's going to provide a better life, let it happen. Because I'm watching my boy right now get drugged through the dirt, and his ex is on all types of shit. And it sucks because, man, his boys, they go through so much stuff. And I'm like, I just want to tell her, like, I don't even know if she'll ever see this video. Just let your sons go and go get yourself cleaned up, and then come back and get in their lives, because that is the roughest shit to see, man. It really hurts me. But that goes for both moms and dads. If you can't take care of your kids and you can't afford, to whether it's money wise or whatever, hey, if it's really that rough, it's okay to say, hey, look, take them for a little bit. And this is where you guys got to be cool, and money shouldn't be the issue. I need you to watch them for a couple months while I either go get clean or while I get a better job and get myself back on my feet. But man, I'm telling you, you don't understand how much it affects these kids. Because what I see, man, it hurts my heart every time, just hearing the stuff he's got to go through, and then to see it myself is rough.
It's terrible.
I'm out.
Yeah, well, he just dropped the mic.
He did. He's been writing notes for a little bit, so he was like sitting on that. So tonight, walk in love, you guys. Forgiveness. Don't be assholes. Put your kids first when it comes to split relationships. Really think about, treat others how you want to be treated. Remember that we are all, we're all going through shit. We're all going through shit. Don't use it against the parent. It's the next thing. What is that for? Don't use it against that parent. I don't know what that's for. Explain. But if I don't get to it, like I said, don't use the kids as bait. Educate yourself on what your rights are, what you can do. Know that there's hope out there. Know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Know that you're not alone. Remember, forgiveness goes a long way, especially for you and your growth and the positivity that you put forth. Remember, parents, you are the examples your children have. Please set good examples. Stay tuned for the next talk about it. Let's talk about it. I think I have a Love and Light coming up soon. I have another. Shelly, do you have anything coming up?
I don't have anything scheduled. There's something. I'll talk to you about it after the show.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I know that I have a Monday is for makeup coming up this week. So it will either be tomorrow or Friday. A Love and Light will be another kind of something like this. And we'll work on a Let's Talk About It, where we talk about things like this, like life, that a lot of people don't want to touch on, but are important for our growth as people and as community and as a nation. So until then, thanks for joining. Thanks for spending your Wednesday evening with us.
Mhm.
We will see you soon.